Chapter 1, Crossing Over with Your Face. Welcome to the land of mist. Whether you are rolling in wealth or paralyzed in bed, here, everything will start anew. You have a fair starting point, regardless of gender, age, or youth. Your weaknesses will be forcefully compensated. Cherish this new opportunity. The shelter log is very important. It can help you understand this world faster. Finally, survive. The voice slowly stopped. Its gender was indistinguishable. No, it was even questionable whether it was a voice at all. It felt more like a strange realization welling up from the depths of one's heart. Bai Yi lay motionless on a small wooden bed. After a long while, he slowly opened his eyes, almost pleadingly, yet also tentatively. What greeted his eyes were somewhat unfamiliar colors. As there was no window, the sunlight wasn't harsh, and it was impossible to tell the time. He lay on the bed, his eyes darting back and forth, greedily observing everything within his sight. The roof, walls, and door frame were all made of wood, while the rest was precarious thatch. He began to exert force with his upper body and slowly sat up from the bed. Now, Bai Yi could see the entire room. The room wasn't large, about 20 square meters. It contained a dilapidated single bed padded with thatch, a table with a book and a candle on it, an iron box and a worn-out stone axe beside the table leg, and a tightly shut door, also made of thatch. There were no windows in the room, but faint light seeped in from outside, barely providing visibility. At this moment, Bai Yi had already attempted to stand up and walk towards the small table. 1 step, 2 steps. Surprise filled Bai Yi's mind, and his body trembled slightly from the overwhelming emotion. Thud! Bai Yi's legs gave out and he fell to the ground. Fortunately, he had reached the table. Remembering the voice in his mind, he picked up the shelter log. He reached for the shelter log and opened it. The first page contained precautions. 1. The shelter is unique and non-renewable. 2. You need to reinforce your shelter to resist danger. 3. Daytime is not necessarily safe, but please try your best to explore. 4. Night is very dangerous. Please do not go out to explore. 5. The novice protection period lasts for 7 days. During this period, players inside the shelter will not suffer any physical damage. The protection period ends after 7 days. The log was made of some kind of leather. Bai Yi flipped the page. The second page was about the weather, and the third page contained shelter information. Thatch hut. Level 1. Durability, 10/10. Capacity, 50 units. Trait, none. Upgrade, 030 wood. Description, a thatch hut with no protective capabilities. It can't even withstand a push from you. Please do not attempt it. The fourth page contained personal information. Players can view personal information at any time. Other information requires players to hold the log to view. Bai Yi healthy. Age, 30. The average value for each attribute in adults is 3, and the limit is 10. Strength, 3. Strength that can be mobilized throughout the body. Greater leg strength means faster running and more agility. Originally 0.2, only enough to maintain basic physiological activities, forcefully compensated. Spirit, 9. Higher spirit means faster sanity resistance and recovery. Constitution, 3. Originally 0.5, only enough to maintain basic physiological activities, forcefully compensated. Sanity, 100/100. Below 70 sanity will result in mild hallucinations. Below 50 will result in severe hallucinations accompanied by mild sequelae. Below 30 will enter madness, with distorted cognition and severe sequelae. Below 10, permanent madness, all cognition completely distorted, irreversible. 0, mutation. Talent, Steel Spine Will. Effect 1, active. When activated as sanity decreases, the hardness index of your spine increases, reaching a level comparable to steel. Strength and constitution will significantly increase, up to 3 times, lasting for 10 minutes. Afterward, 100% of lost sanity will be returned, and it will enter cooldown with a cooldown period of 12 hours. Effect 2, passive. 1. When your sanity drops to 1, sanity is forcibly locked. 2. You are immune to all negative sanity statuses. At the same time, your consciousness will suffer immense pain. The pain decreases as sanity recovers. When sanity is above 30, the pain disappears. Description: in the 10 years when your 5 senses were deprived, you were not defeated. Countless times you imagined what would have happened if that rebar hadn't pierced your spine and compressed your brainstem. In countless hopes, your soul responded to you. Rubbing the words, Bai Yi's eyes gradually blurred and tears dripped onto the log. He would never forget those 10 years of darkness. He couldn't see, hear, or touch anything and could do nothing but think and fantasize. Now, a new beginning. Bai Yi's lips slowly curved upwards. No matter where this was, he sincerely thanked the existence that allowed him to start over. Continuing to turn the page, the following were the player forum and square, which were empty, with no one speaking. Further back was the chat channel with 3 sections: World Channel, Area Channel, and Personal Channel. Among them, messages in the World Channel and Area Channel were refreshing rapidly. Is this a reality show? Where is this? I want to go home. Dad, Mom, where are you? I'm so scared. Child, I'm here. Get lost. The exact number of people wasn't displayed, and Bai Yi didn't know. He didn't speak but looked at the small text below. World Channel. Each person can send a maximum of 10 messages per day. Area and personal channels are unrestricted. Resets at midnight daily. Bai Yi found there was another page behind and was about to turn it when a gust of wind blew. There was a strong smell of blood in the wind, even carrying a hint of blood color. Bai Yi looked up and found that at some point, the door had quietly opened a crack. I remember the door was tightly shut just now, right? Bai Yi felt a little apprehensive. Although he didn't know where this was, according to the description in the log, it wasn't necessarily safe outside even during the day. But he still slowly got up and walked towards the door. The log says the shelter is absolutely safe and won't suffer physical attacks. Wait, physical, could there be mental attacks? But I don't know what the shelter's protection criteria are. It would be terrible if the protection didn't take effect after opening the door. So to be safe, I should go and close the door. Bai Yi muttered to himself, both analyzing the situation and giving himself courage. He moved slowly, his footsteps light, trying not to make any sound, because he felt it, the deep malice behind the door. The closer he got to the door, the more uncomfortable Bai Yi felt. Even the surrounding air began to reject him. A faint wind seeped in through the crack in the door. Bai Yi felt the air he breathed in becoming increasingly viscous, even solidifying into a physical entity, taking root and sprouting within him. Finally reaching the door to avoid unknown attacks, Bai Yi chose not to look outside but to quickly close the door. He didn't close the door quickly because it was also made of thatch and not of good quality. If he closed it too hard, the door might fall off, and that would be a big problem. The door slowly closed. Nothing happened. Bai Yi didn't relax but carefully scanned the room again, confirming there were no leaks or anything. When he swept his gaze to the table, his pupils suddenly constricted. He saw that the log had somehow turned a page, covered densely with the word warning. As Bai Yi's thoughts moved, text appeared on the log. Warning, warning, warning. There is an invisible presence outside the door. Please close the doors and windows tightly and do not move around casually. Currently in novice protection period, system is expelling. Remaining expulsion time, 10. Seeing the first part, Bai Yi's heart sank halfway, thinking he was going to lie down again after just standing up today. Seeing the latter part, he relaxed. An invisible presence, although he didn't know what it was, telling him not to look proved that looking would likely not end well. Bai Yi secretly felt a chill down his spine, grateful for his caution. But that time was at 10 minutes. The next second after thinking this, the text appeared again. 987. So it's seconds. With this, Bai Yi finally felt relieved. He took a step back facing the door and let out a long breath. 5-4. As he breathed deeply, a large amount of air entered his body. The air that had been slowly dissipating rapidly solidified and grew due to the influx of a large amount of gas. The moment he felt the abnormality in his body, Bai Yi realized he had made the mistake of being careless at the last moment. He immediately held his breath and backed away. 3. But it was too late. It was as if it had realized there was someone inside, or perhaps it just swayed casually. 2. The next second, a piece of flesh and bone, fragments the size of a fingernail, following a parabolic trajectory, gently struck the door. A clump of thatch slowly fell, and the door was hit with a small hole by this piece of flesh and bone. 1. At this moment, Bai Yi could no longer control his body. He was manipulated, desperately. Through the small hole, he saw outside, Chapter 2 the next day. The hole in the thatch door was no bigger than a grain of rice, yet Bai Yi felt as if all the malice in the world was pouring in. He looked as if he had discovered the pursuit of his life, the ultimate truth, his face showing a fanatical expression. The moment he saw it, Bai Yi felt as if he had arrived in heaven and time had stopped flowing. The dome of heaven was woven from billions of stars, and every ray of light was a pure, undefiled existence. Light here was not dazzling, but like liquid compassion, gently permeating every inch of space. Crystal-like rivers meandered, reflecting a brilliance beyond color, and magnificent hymns echoed in his ears. Everything was beautiful and captivating. Warning, warning, warning. Directly observing an unseeable level existence, sanity -100. Steel spine will activated, sanity locked at 1/100. The sound in his ears was like thunder, and Bai Yi suddenly awoke. There was no heaven, only a blood-red scene before his eyes. A huge ball of flesh floated in the distant void, its surface covered with vein-like patterns. These patterns wriggled like living things, and a dark green liquid flowed through every vein. Even more terrifying were the dense cracks on the surface of the flesh ball. Those were not wounds at all, but tens of thousands of chewing mouths. Those mouths constantly roared, emitting grating sounds. As the perspective shifted, a large portion of the flesh ball was missing, the missing parts uneven and rough, looking as if it had been gnawed away. Suddenly, the flesh ball's screams became even more mournful. A piece of flesh on its body suddenly disappeared, leaving only a rugged large pit. The surrounding void was filled with scattered pieces of flesh. Bai Yi felt like his eyes were going to explode, but he couldn't control his body at all. Zir. Exile successful. The next second, Bai Yi's perspective switched back inside the shelter. His stomach cramped violently, and the bitter taste of bile rose in his throat. Before Bai Yi could be happy, intense pain shot through his entire body like an electric current. He staggered backward, his lower back hitting the wooden table with a thud. Bai Yi's spine made a metallic grinding sound, and several sharp, angular bone joints protruded under his skin, as if a steel knife was pushing upwards from his tailbone. He curled up on the ground, his fingernails digging deep into his palms, yet not a single drop of blood flowed out. All the capillaries in his body were contracting, and his skin had a strange bluish-gray color. Who? Every breath felt like swallowing glass shards. Bai Yi hadn't expected the so-called immense pain to be so terrifying. He used his last bit of strength to roll over, and then the entire world plunged into darkness. When Bai Yi regained consciousness in the intense pain, the sky was already faintly lit. He found himself in a curled-up position, his back clothes soaked with cold sweat, clinging to his stiffened spine. Cough, cough, cough. Just as he tried to move, a tearing pain shot from his tailbone straight to the top of his head. Bai Yi bit down hard on his lower lip, and the taste of blood filled his mouth. His spine felt as if it had been cast with molten steel, and with every breath, he could feel the phantom pain of metal burning his internal organs. Sanity recovering, 30/100. The information panel in his mind told him that it was finally over. Bai Yi struggled to lift his head and found that the entire room was covered in claw marks. Dark red tissue remained in the shallow and deep grooves, as if they had been repeatedly scraped with some kind of barbed, sharp object. When his gaze shifted to the tabletop, Bai Yi's pupils contracted sharply. There were 5 indented finger marks on the wooden handle of the stone axe, and bits of shed skin were still stuck to the edges. Was it me? He trembling raised his right hand and found wood chips embedded in his fingernails. A belated panic surged into his heart. What kind of struggle had his body gone through during the dozen hours he was unconscious? But then, he burst into laughter. I survived, I won't die, I must live on. It wasn't until the first light of dawn that Bai Yi could barely stand up by leaning against the wall. He checked the log and found that it was already the next day. Bai Yi noticed a faint dark red glow in the pile of straw by the door. He used a wooden stick he found nearby to poke through the straw. He saw a piece of flesh the size of a fingernail lying there, with some bone fragments on it. This is from yesterday. He wrapped the bone fragments in straw, but as he touched them, he heard whispers. The sound was like thousands of people murmuring simultaneously in his ear. You see infinitely multiplying flesh and bone, sanity -8. Sanity 22/100. A needle-like pain surged in his mind again, but it wasn't intense. Bai Yi was startled and almost dropped it. The eerie whispers didn't disappear until he put the item into the storage box. Such a small piece of meat, it takes up 30 units. Bai Yi said in surprise. Although he didn't know what this thing was for, his intuition told him it was a good item. This pain, it seems I need to keep my sanity above 30 from now on. Gurgle gurgle tilde. His stomach rumbled with hunger. Only then did Bai Yi realize that he had been here for a day and a night without eating anything. I need to go out and find something to eat. If I just stay in the shelter, even with the novice protection period, I won't survive for 2 days. Bai Yi moved his body and found that there were basically no problems, so he picked up the axe. Before leaving, he paused and took the log with him. Bai Yi looked around. White mist enveloped the entire world like solidified milk. Some unknown flocculent matter floated in the mist, and the trees 10 meters away were only distorted silhouettes. Visibility is so low, I hope everything goes smoothly. He cheered himself up and walked into the mist. Bai Yi's walking speed was not fast, he was constantly on guard for any movement around him. But the surroundings were too quiet, not even the sound of wind. Just like that, Bai Yi circled the shelter for several hundred meters and found no food. This made him a little anxious. The food problem was okay, going hungry for 2 days was fine, at most a little weak. But the water problem was urgent. He hadn't had water for almost 2 days, and he had to find a water source today. Feeling his body already slightly dehydrated, and at the same time thinking that his talent had finished its cooldown, Bai Yi gritted his teeth and decided to explore further. He walked in one direction, occasionally making a mark around him. Finally, good luck arrived. Bai Yi heard the sound of flowing water. He quickened his pace towards the sound and found a small stream. Bai Yi tasted it first to confirm it was fresh water. He finally replenished his water source. Afterward, he searched along the stream for a while and found no living animals, but he did find some wild fruits and an animal carcass. It was a rabbit. The carcass was relatively intact, but it had already decomposed. Gray fur was covered with dark green mold spots, and translucent maggots crawled out of its festering eye sockets. Detected slight contamination source, rabbit carcass, sanity -1. Found wild fruits, non-toxic, edible. Between the fruits and the rabbit, Bai Yi decisively chose the fruits. After replenishing his food, he also picked a full pile of wild fruits, holding them in his arms to take back. Before leaving, he thought for a moment and still picked up the rabbit's ears, taking it back with him. During this process, Bai Yi discovered that when he held the log, he could view item information and even decompose animal carcasses. However, he couldn't open the forum, the square, or directly put things into the shelter's storage box. After returning to the shelter, Bai Yi did not plan to go out again, because the log showed that it was already afternoon, but the specific time was unknown. However, Bai Yi took some time to browse the forum. A featured post explained that the daytime duration was 8 hours. He didn't have time to read it carefully, because time was running out. He was already a day behind others and had to hurry to catch up to avoid being eliminated. For the remaining time, Bai Yi began cutting trees to collect wood. He tried to decompose them directly with the log, but there was no reaction. Only felled trees could be decomposed. They don't even let you cut corners at all, even a gentleman is guarded against. Bai Yi complained indignantly. The amount of wood decomposed from a tree was related to the size of the tree. Bai Yi worked all afternoon and cut 25 units of wood. Seeing that it was almost dark, he still hadn't collected enough wood for the upgrade. Bai Yi glanced at the panel, sanity 50/100. The next second, he let out a low shout. Steel spine will activate. He heard his spine suddenly make the sound of gears turning. Bai Yi felt an electric current transmitting along his bone joints, and his muscles swelled up at a visible speed. Steel spine will activated, sanity -40, current sanity 10/100, gained 2.5 times amplification. Warning, your sanity is below 30, you are entering madness. You are entering cognitive distortion. Exempted. Pain from the soul swept over him, but compared to last night, it wasn't severe, at least Bai Yi could barely endure it. Bai Yi raised his hand, swinging the ordinary stone axe with a whooshing sound. Crack! A pine tree as thick as a bowl snapped in response. Bai Yi looked at the neat break and felt the consumed stamina, his breathing gradually becoming rapid. He tried continuous chopping, and it was truly critical hits with every swing. In just 3 minutes, Bai Yi collected 20 units of wood. He could feel that this was not his limit, but the axe was limiting him. Afterward, Bai Yi did not continue cutting trees but checked his attribute panel. Bai Yi, healthy. Age, 30. Strength, 7/5/3. Spirit, 9. Constitution, 7/5/3. Sanity, 10/100. After testing, Bai Yi once again marveled at the power of his talent ability. His strength, speed, and nerve reaction ability were greatly enhanced. At the same time, he also understood why there was no agility. With a forceful push of his legs, he instantly shot out 7 or 8 meters. Including sudden stops, sharp turns, instant acceleration, etc., all were incredibly fast. At the same time, his 7.5 constitution allowed Bai Yi to perform these high-difficulty movements with ease. 10 minutes later, Bai Yi returned to the shelter satisfied. Next was the main event. Shelter upgrade conditions met. Do you want to upgrade? Yes. Chapter 3, a forum full of talented people. Shelter upgrade successful. Bai Yi looked at the completely new wooden house. The rotten thatched walls had turned into slanted wooden plank walls, and the leaky gaps were filled with withered yellow grass stems. The area had also expanded to 50 square meters. Although it was still very dilapidated, at least it wasn't as leaky, and Bai Yi was quite content. Bai Yi opened the log and scrolled to the shelter information. Broken wooden house. Level 2. Durability, 100/100. Capacity, 0/150. Trait, none. Upgrade, 0/200 wood, 0/50 stone. Description, a dilapidated house made of thatch and wooden planks. Its only advantage is that it's a bit sturdier. Added. Window. Wishing well. Function, investing items can yield random replacements. Each item is limited to 5 replacements. Description, a gambler's favorite, a poor man's gospel. The newly added window was like a murky eye embedded in the east wall. Through the blurry glass, he could see a stone well that had appeared out of nowhere 3 meters away. Bai Yi peered at the wishing well through the window. He wanted to go out and take a look, but the thought of the warning about the dangers of the night reminded him of the invisible entity that had been right in his face. Bai Yi shivered, abandoning the idea. He lay on his broken little wooden bed, planning to browse the forum. At this moment, the chat channel page in the log was flashing with a 99+ red dot. When Bai Yi opened it, the world channel information was refreshing at a speed of 1,000 messages per second. Help, there's something scratching at my door. Just traded a rotten apple for a golden legend. Damn it, stupid wishing well, give me back my fine axe. Hey, I won. Beast, what did you win? The chat channel was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Switching to the forum section, the previously empty forum was now full of posts, with new posts appearing at a rate of 10 per minute. Among them, many gilded sticky posts were particularly eye-catching. These were all featured posts with over 100,000 likes. The one at the top was a post about time. Mist World Day-Night Duration Discrepancy Theorem. Author, unconscious, players can set a name for themselves. Likes, 1.37 billion. On the first day of the game, I didn't engage in any strenuous activities and only performed basic eating and metabolism. While ensuring my heart rate was stable, I calculated that the Mist World alternates between 10.02 hours of daylight and 13.98 hours of night. In other words, the relatively safe activity time is 8:00-18:00. Therefore, we can roughly estimate the time of darkness based on the morning and afternoon displayed in the log, preventing players from not returning to the shelter before nightfall due to exploring or gathering resources. Below is my proof process. Due to time constraints, I only conducted 1 day's experiment, so the conclusion is for reference only. I will conduct multiple rounds of retesting later to ensure reduced error. Here, I will share my training method. Others can also learn and verify the deduction themselves. First, the human heart. Finally, I sincerely hope everyone can survive. Farewell. The post ended, and Bai Yi continued to scroll down. The comments below were all reserved for a divine post. Understood the preface, understood the conclusion, understood the epilogue, didn't understand the rest. Don't say those useless things. I'm a general, just give me the conclusion. Then I ask you. The comment section was full of adoration, thanks, and confused remarks. Bai Yi did try to read the method for measuring time, but found he couldn't understand it at all. He scratched his head. He had been lying down for 10 years. Had humanity evolved like this? Leaving a comment, adoring the Great One? He continued to scroll down. The second featured post was titled, Dangers and Precautions in the Mist World. Author, Call Me Bear Grylls. Likes, 930 million. The main text is roughly divided into 5 parts. 1. Within 1 kilometer of the shelter, the probability of encountering beasts is extremely low. 2. Beyond 1 kilometer of the shelter, there are wolves and grizzly bears, and the possibility of other beasts cannot be ruled out. Photos of wolf and bear rotten corpses are attached below. 3. There is a chance of encountering otherworldly demons beyond 1 kilometer of the shelter. A photo taken from the grass, with a wandering humanoid figure faintly visible in the distance. 4. At night, there is a high probability of encountering beasts and rotten corpses, a type of otherworldly demon within 1 kilometer of the shelter. Note, it is not recommended for people with attributes below 8 to fight otherworldly demons alone. I am the consequence. Attached picture 1, rotten corpse. The image has been pixelated. Bai Yi was curious and clicked on HD display in the bottom right corner. You witness the ugly rotten corpse, sanity -8. Attached picture 2, a strong man with 2 deep wounds on his arms and thighs, visible to the bone. Attribute screenshot, strength 7, 5 constitution 7 spirit 6 sanity 51 100. 5. Don't get addicted to exploring. Upgrade your shelter to level 2 first. Most beasts and otherworldly demons hunt by smell. The thatched hut leaks scent, and the shelter's novice protection only takes effect when there is a complete shelter. Attached picture, a thatched hut with only the roof remaining, with a rotten corpse standing outside. Seeing this, Bai Yi started to laugh. Although he was very unlucky, seeing others unlucky was really funny. At the same time, he also learned about the existence of otherworldly demons. He wasn't sure if the one that had been right in his face before was an otherworldly demon, but the appearance of the rotten corpse made him realize that there might be a huge difference between different otherworldly demons. Bai Yi didn't look at them one by one, but skipped through them. One featured post caught his interest. Some small conclusions about the wishing well, updated regularly. It analyzed the wishing well, which was pretty much the same as the description in the log, but the interesting part was the comment section below the post. RNM, return my weapon you asterisk I. Asterisk, wishing well I love you, wishing well wahahaha, traded a piece of wood for a fine weapon woohahaha. Below is a picture of a 2-handed greatsword's attributes. The curses below became even fiercer. Bai Yi continued watching. When he saw, some players have invested rotten corpses and exchanged them for fine weapons. Bai Yi subconsciously glanced at the bone and flesh pieces in the box. Scrolling down, various titles were dazzling. How players can efficiently utilize the unique advantages around the shelter for rapid development. A brief discussion on the correlation between sanity deduction and the danger level of otherworldly demons. On the 108 ways to use the shelter log. The most suitable exercise method for ordinary people in the mist world. Item quality classification, updated regularly. Wilderness cooking techniques encyclopedia, and so on. After watching for a while, Bai Yi scrolled to the player square again. Thousands of product information were posted on the square. Anonymous, selling a worn-out stone axe common quality, exchanging for 10 units of pure water. 8848 titanium phone, 1 hemostatic grass for 5 units of wood. Wang Dabo, high price for armor blueprints, private message with price. Bai Yi's gaze lingered longest on the post, titled The Most Suitable Exercise Method for Ordinary People in the Mist World. This post had just been published not long ago, but the likes were increasing particularly fast. There were dozens of authors for this post, and their names were a dense string, looking like real names. The post proposed that specific breathing rhythms combined with scientific exercise methods had a good effect, and in the mist world, people's physical recovery ability would slightly increase. Injuries would still get infected, even more severely. The post suggested that there might be unknown substances in the air that prevented exercise from having various negative effects like on Earth. They temporarily named this substance spirituality. Then, through formula calculations, the post provided more than a dozen exercise methods. People with different attributes could directly apply the corresponding method. The post concluded, "Look at the path we have walked. When primitive humans walked out of African caves against the cold wind of the Ice Age, when the people of the Xia and Shang dynasties carved the first hieroglyphs on bone armor, when Gagarin broke through the atmosphere and gazed at the blue planet, these moments all prove. Humanity's most powerful survival weapon has never been sharp claws and teeth, but the courage to explore and the wisdom of cooperation engraved in our genes. The current crisis may be more dangerous than ever before. We have traveled to a new world and are participating in a dangerous and ridiculous game. But please remember, the Iliad was born when the walls of Troy fell, the Renaissance blossomed in the shadow of the Black Death, and a peace constitution was rebuilt on the ruins of the East. Every desperate situation is an upgrade of civilization. Let us transform fear into the motivation for calculation, condense wisdom into sharp weapons, and rewrite the doomsday script into a dawn prelude in a uniquely human way. Because the only one who can define the end of humanity has always been humanity itself. Fear is a biological instinct, courage is a human hymn, long live humanity." In the beginning, there were some dissenting voices in the comment section. Is pouring chicken soup useful at this time? Doing all sorts of things, I am a dignified general. AUV, isn't this General Bro? But gradually, the comments began to unify. Long live humanity. Long live humanity. Long live humanity. Bai Yi silently watched the comments constantly flooding the screen. Heh. With a light snort, his expression in the dim room was unclear. He had been lying in bed for a full 10 years, and at the most spirited age, he encountered the most fatal blow. He had always felt that there was a deep generation gap between him and the current humans. I didn't expect that humans after 10 years would still be so naive. He muttered to himself, but his hand moved. Long live humanity. Chapter 4 Lottery. Successful transmission. Bai Yi felt a bit nauseated. He quickly shook his head, suppressing other thoughts, and the determination to survive reoccupied his mind. Bai Yi closed the log and felt a bit emotional. In just 2 short days, the top players had already created such a large gap with ordinary players, not to mention he was a day behind the others. He estimated that he was currently in the last tier and could only try his best to catch up. Bai Yi steadied himself, stood up, and decided to try that exercise method. First was breathing. Bai Yi continuously adjusted according to the breathing method provided in the post. It was said that combining this breathing technique could fully exhaust the muscles, maximizing the exercise effect. Before long, he grasped the essentials and began warming up and exercising. The movements were very simple, just the most common bodyweight exercises, but Bai Yi practiced enthusiastically. Bai Yi continued exercising until late at night. He only stopped when his muscles felt like they were tearing. Exhausted, he crawled onto the wooden bed and fell asleep. Weather, sunny. Location, Land of Mist. Time, morning. Temperature, 18-20. As dawn was just breaking, Bai Yi woke up. He felt he had slept very comfortably. He stretched and his whole body crackled. Bai Yi moved his body inside. What the post said is really true. Even after being that tired, a single night's sleep recovered everything. Thinking of this, he brought up his panel. Bai Yi, healthy. Age, 30. Strength, 3-1. Spirit, 9. Constitution, 3-1. Sanity, 100/100. Increased by 0.1, Bai Yi was delighted. It seemed exercising had to be added to his daily to-do list. No one disliked the feeling of becoming stronger. After a simple warm-up, Bai Yi came to the wishing well. Beside the well were 5 wild fruits, 5 pieces of wood, 5 stones, a handful of thatch, and a contaminated rabbit carcass. This was Bai Yi's entire fortune. Bai Yi rubbed his hands excitedly. He was going to draw lots. A faint gray mist floated above the wishing well, obscuring the view inside. The inner wall was covered in moss. He looked around, then picked up a wild fruit first. When he threw in the first wild fruit, there was a splash from the bottom of the well. Wild fruit exchange count, 4/5. Moldy bread. A blackened piece of bread was ejected from inside and landed at Bai Yi's feet. The second wild fruit arced through the air. Wild fruit exchange count, 3/5. 500 ml purified water. The fourth, withered thatch 1. Wood 1. Wild fruit exchange count, 1/5. Bai Yi raised an eyebrow. Why was his luck so bad? After thinking for a moment, he put down the last wild fruit and picked up a piece of wood instead. 1 unit of wood fell into the well. Crumbled paper ball. A paper ball flew out of the well, and Bai Yi casually caught it. There are words on it. Bai Yi unfolded the paper ball, then took out his log. Fine stone pickaxe crafting blueprint. Quality, fine. Durability, 20/20. Description, wood 1 stone 3. Ta-da, isn't it simple? Wood exchange count, 4/5. Something good came out, and it was a big one. Bai Yi was delighted, feeling his luck had arrived. He threw in 4 pieces of wood. What the hell? Bai Yi angrily threw the 4 pieces of thatch in his hand onto the ground. Wood exchange count, 0/5. All right, wood couldn't be used for wishing anymore. Bai Yi turned and picked up the stones, dropping them in one by one. Withered thatch 1. Wood 1. Stone 2. Wild fruit 1. Bai Yi closed his eyes, pretending not to see these scraps. The next second, a gun appeared. In an instant, Bai Yi was quick-eyed and quick-handed, grabbing it. He couldn't bear to let this treasure fall to the ground. Shepherd's mercy damaged. Quality, fine. Durability, 5/5. Description, this was once a master's proudest work. Unfortunately, with the passage of time, this gun is severely damaged, with only a faint spark of life remaining. Each shot consumes 1 durability. The weapon is waste after durability reaches 0. The weapon automatically recovers 1 durability per hour. Each bullet has a 5% chance to trigger painful wail, causes the target to be stunned for 1 second. This was a blood-stained silver revolver. It had a cylinder capacity of 10, 5 of which were blocked by an unknown object and could no longer be used. Stone exchange count, 0/5. Bai Yi's breathing became heavy. This was exactly the weapon he currently lacked the most. Although he was very strong after activating his talent, this didn't change the fact that he was normally a weakling with only 3 attributes. With a burst of courage, Bai Yi threw the contaminated rabbit carcass in without hesitation. This time, the well water boiled and surged, and the blast of air blew his bangs back. The clattering exchange item made Bai Yi's pupils contract sharply. It was half a pulsating heart. You found a beating heart, sanity -15. Without a word, Bai Yi grabbed the revolver, aimed, and fired, all in one smooth motion. Bang! Bai Yi's hand went numb. The tremendous recoil nearly made him drop the gun. The beating heart exploded into fragments. Hew! Bai Yi let out a long breath, but the next second he sharply held his breath. He found a branch to poke the fragments. Only after confirming they were completely still did he cautiously take a small breath. Only after confirming everything was all right did he start breathing deeply. Bai Yi calmed himself down, and the drawing continued. Next was the thatch. Stone 1. Stone 1. Stone 1. Stone 2. Stone 1. Thatch exchange count, 0/5. He took out the previous wild fruit and threw it in. Looking at the last wild fruit, Bai Yi had a premonition that something good was coming. Withered thatch 1. Wild fruit exchange count, 0/5. Bai Yi casually caught the thatch and then tore it into pieces. The prepared items had been exchanged, but the next second, Bai Yi took out the moldy bread. He had seen on the forum that items exchanged from the wishing well could also be used for exchange. Of course, the log couldn't be exchanged. It seemed to be unique and would be directly teleported back to the shelter. Bai Yi raised his hand and threw the bread down. Windproof lighter. Quality, common. Durability, 100/100. Good stuff, at least I won't have to eat raw meat anymore. Bai Yi was very satisfied with this draw and decided to stop. Although he still had things he could use for drawing, such as the piece of flesh or the gun in his hand. The former was too significant. Bai Yi was afraid of drawing a surprise. As for the latter, thinking of the gambling addicts cursing on the forums, he decided to quit while he was ahead. Next, Bai Yi didn't plan to cut trees. With his 3 attributes, he couldn't cut much wood in a day. Combined with the stone pickaxe crafting blueprint he just drew, Bai Yi decided to make several stone pickaxes and sell them in the square. This was the third day, and many players already needed to mine stone to upgrade their shelter. However, because they started with only a common quality worn stone axe and no pickaxe, this had caused the price of common pickaxes to be very high these past few days, not to mention fine quality ones. Thinking of this, Bai Yi was even less worried. He held the stone axe in his left hand, the log in his right, and the fully reloaded revolver tucked into his waist. Fully armed, he prepared to explore the surroundings and search for prey. Through the forum, Bai Yi learned that the log would not be lost. Even if damaged or left outside, it would be teleported back to the shelter. Not afraid of damage, won't be lost, and can view item information, truly an essential tool for exploring and gathering in the land of mist. Bai Yi slowly advanced into the depths of the forest, stepping on rotten leaves. The silver barrel of the revolver at his waist gleamed coldly. He spent half a day searching the entire surrounding kilometer. He didn't find any prey, only a pile of fruits and a few sources of fresh water. Thus, a few minutes ago, he had stepped outside the 1-kilometer safe zone. At this moment, he was even more cautious. Suddenly, Bai Yi felt his foot trip on something. It was thorns buried under the leaves. The moment Bai Yi stumbled forward, a black shadow darted out from the mist behind him. The moment he heard the low whimper, Bai Yi felt a sense of dread. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. Bai Yi fell forward with the momentum. At the same time, his right hand released the log and reached forward. As it touched the ground, he slightly bent it, then used his body's strength, causing his entire body to fall to the left. The black shadow swiped past Bai Yi's upper right. Bai Yi felt his right arm go numb, followed by a warm flow slowly running down his arm. Bai Yi had no time to deal with this. Using the momentum, he rolled once and then stood up. The revolver was already in his right hand. Missing its attack, the black shadow quickly turned and pounced back. Bai Yi raised his gun and aimed but didn't rush to fire. For Bai Yi, who had no shooting experience, the probability of hitting a target at a distance with a gun that had such heavy recoil was minimal. As the saying goes, outside 7 steps the gun is fast, within 7 steps the gun is both accurate and fast. Now was the time. Bai Yi's eyes narrowed and he fired a shot. The black shadow's head exploded like a watermelon. Its body fell limply at Bai Yi's feet, its 4 legs still twitching. What died in front of Bai Yi was a gray wolf. Bai Yi stood still. The large secretion of adrenaline made him feel no pain. The hand holding the gun trembled slightly. This was Bai Yi's first battle, and he was ambushed, but the result was that he won. Bai Yi glanced at his right arm. There was a 10-centimeter long wound on it, not too deep, and it was bleeding continuously. He took out the prepared cloth strip, wrapped it around his upper arm, and used his left hand and mouth to tie a knot. Awu tilde awu tilde. 1, 2, 3. A full 10 wolves crawled out from the mist. Saliva dripped from their fangs onto the rotten leaves as they slowly but steadily surrounded Bai Yi. Bai Yi remained silent, doing nothing else but continuing to tie the knot. With a pull from his left hand and mouth, the bleeding from his right arm stopped. Then, he swapped the gun and axe, changing to a stance with the gun in his left hand and the axe in his right. Bai Yi opened his mouth, but his low voice seemed a bit hoarse, as if carrying the grim determination of a desperate struggle. Unlucky. Chapter 5 Bloody Battle. Bai Yi's expression was cold, and his right hand, gripping too tightly, made a slight friction sound against the stone axe's wooden handle. 10 pairs of eerie green beast eyes flickered in the mist, and the heavy breathing of 10 gray wolves wove a suffocating net that enveloped Bai Yi. Outside the encirclement, there was a wolf larger than the others, the Wolf King. Sensing Bai Yi's gaze, the Wolf King let out a low growl. In an instant, all the gray wolves arched their backs, poised to attack. Steel Spine will activate. Steel Spine will activated, sanity -99, current sanity 100, gain 3x amplification. Warning, your sanity is below 10, you are afflicted with permanent madness, you are afflicted with cognitive distortion. Exempted. Bai Yi held nothing back, directly draining his sanity. The moment the sound of metal friction exploded from his spine, intense pain followed like a bone-deep affliction. But then, it was forcibly suppressed by Bai Yi's will. Strength 9.331, Constitution 9, 3/3, 1. Glancing at his stats panel, Bai Yi moved. He shot towards the Wolf King like an arrow from a bowstring. At the forefront of the wolf pack's encirclement, a gray wolf lunged at him. Bai Yi could even see the small tongue trembling in its throat. Bang! Gunfire bloomed like an orange flower in the mist. The bullet passed through the gray wolf's mouth, blowing a large hole in its head. Shepherd's Mercy, damaged, durability, 3/5. Having done all this, Bai Yi didn't pause but ducked and rolled. 5 sharp claws grazed his scalp, and foul-smelling wolf blood splattered on the back of his neck. Using the momentum of his roll, he swung the stone axe, burying it in the eye socket of a flanking attacker. Howl. The Wolf King moved. It didn't charge directly at Bai Yi but began to circle, its massive form agilely hiding in Bai Yi's blind spots. At this moment, Bai Yi had pulled out the axe and swung it backhand at another gray wolf. The immense force made the axe whistle through the air, aiming directly for the wolf's spine. Crack! Accompanied by the crisp sound of bone breaking, the entire axe head cleaved into the wolf, leaving only the handle exposed. The moment blood gushed out, Bai Yi felt intense pain in his left shoulder. A gray wolf had bitten through his flesh, its canine teeth grinding against his collarbone with an agonizing crunch. Bai Yi's pupils suddenly contracted. He quickly assessed the situation, reversed his left hand, and slammed the gun barrel against the wolf's fangs. The instant metal clashed with fangs, sending sparks flying. He pulled the trigger. Shepherd's Mercy, damaged, durability, 2/5. Bang! The wolf's head exploded into a bloody mist from the inside. Bai Yi's left wrist was also dislocated by the recoil due to his incorrect shooting posture. He stumbled and hit a tree trunk, 3 bloody gashes appearing on his right leg from branches. The Wolf King seized this opportunity, leaping out from the shadows. At this moment, Bai Yi was at his most vulnerable. The stone axe was stuck in the wolf-rotten corpse next to him and couldn't be pulled out in time, and his left wrist was dislocated, hanging limply. In this critical moment, Bai Yi could only raise his left arm to block. The Wolf King bit down on Bai Yi's left arm, its massive body pinning him against the tree, unable to move. Simultaneously, the Wolf King's front paws pressed against Bai Yi's chest. The sharp claws had already pierced his flesh, and as the Wolf King slowly applied pressure, they carved out 3 large wounds. Bai Yi gritted his teeth. He released his left hand, grabbed the revolver with his right hand in midair, aimed, and fired. Blood splattered. The pressure on Bai Yi eased, finally giving him a chance to breathe. Shepherd's Mercy, damaged, durability, 1/5. That shot only broke one of the Wolf King's front paws. Its timely dodge saved its life. The wolf pack's assault paused at this moment. The Wolf King was licking the wound on its front paw, while the other gray wolves began to growl at each other, stimulated by the smell of blood. There are still 6 wolves. The gun can only fire one last time. I can't let my only weapon become unusable unless absolutely necessary. Bai Yi knew this was his last chance. He endured the pain, pressed his dislocated wrist against the tree trunk, and used his full body weight to press down hard. The crisp snap of the joint resetting was drowned out by the wolf howls. He charged towards the Wolf King, pulling out the axe as he passed it. If I kill the Wolf King, the other gray wolves should scatter. The Wolf King's amber single eye reflected a cold light. The instant it pushed off with its hind legs, Bai Yi suddenly threw the axe towards the empty space on his left. The instant 5 gray wolves instinctively lunged towards where the weapon landed. Bai Yi's right hand had already grasped the logbook at his waist. The leather cover slammed hard against the Wolf King's snout. The giant beast let out a pained howl. Bai Yi took the opportunity to leap onto the wolf's back, clamping his legs tightly around its ribs. The Wolf King thrashed left and right, trying to shake Bai Yi off. After realizing Bai Yi wouldn't budge, it charged violently towards a tree trunk. Crack! Bai Yi rolled sideways at the last moment. The Wolf King's head slammed into the tree trunk, leaving a dent. He seized the chance to pounce and used the logbook to strangle the wolf's neck, using all his strength until he heard the crisp snap of its cervical vertebrae breaking. The Wolf King was dead. Bai Yi stood up, facing the remaining wolf pack head-on. The howls of the 4 gray wolves turned into whimpers. They tucked their tails and began to slowly retreat. Talent effect remaining, 7 minutes 17 seconds. Bai Yi's clothes were reduced to rags. The bite wound on his left shoulder showed jagged white bone fragments. His left forearm had been bitten through by the Wolf King's sharp teeth. His wrist was swollen and purple, and the claw marks on his chest were still bleeding. He holstered the revolver at his waist. But when the remaining 4 gray wolves turned from retreating to advancing, lunging again, the blood-soaked man instead smiled. His metal spine vibrated at a high frequency. Bai Yi's speed surged again. He slid, dodging the attack while also reaching the axe. Pulling out the stone axe with his right hand, Bai Yi charged again. The stone axe swung down with full force. The immense inertia combined with the impact force caused the axe to cleave deep into a gray wolf's skull. As he exerted force, he rotated to the right. Bai Yi held the axe, and the axe, still stuck in the wolf, spun around once, sweeping the other gray wolves away. Then, with a strong pull, the axe was back in his hand. With a sharp turn, he charged towards the gray wolf behind and to his left, simultaneously throwing the logbook with his left hand. The gray wolf instinctively leaped backward, but by then, Bai Yi was already beside it. While the gray wolf was airborne and unable to brace itself, Bai Yi's axe, like a reaper's scythe, swung down again. A single axe decapitation. The last 2 gray wolves finally realized that the figure before them was not prey to be slaughtered, but a ferocious hunter. Then the 2 wolves turned and fled. Talent effect remaining, 6 minutes 13 seconds. Bai Yi had no time to rest. It was already getting dark and he had to return to the shelter as quickly as possible. Fortunately, the talent hadn't ended yet. Bai Yi dragged away all the wolf-rotten corpses he could. Those he couldn't drag had to be left there. He would come back for them if he had a chance later, hoping the bodies would still be there. He stumbled and fumbled with the shelter door, dragging all the spoils inside. The smell of blood filled the shelter, but Bai Yi had no time to deal with it. Steel spine will effect ended. Sanity restored 100/100. Bai Yi collapsed to his knees in a pool of blood. Over 20 wounds all over his body began to seep blood simultaneously. He propped himself up with the stone axe, trembling as he shuffled to the table. The discarded logbook reappeared on the table. Pain radiated from his body, but Bai Yi was unaffected. Compared to the agony brought by the talent, this was truly just a drizzle. Bai Yi, excessive blood loss. Bai Yi felt his body growing weak, and a warm sensation spread throughout. He knew this was due to excessive blood loss, but he had no medical supplies on him and could only go to the plaza to see if there were any medicines for sale. Thinking of this, he suddenly remembered that the wood and stone he got from the lottery today were still by the wishing well. He had only brought in the lighter and the stone pickaxe crafting blueprint before. Bai Yi looked at the cloth strips on his body and decided to use what was available to stop the bleeding first. First, the penetrating wound on his left shoulder. Bai Yi found a larger piece of cloth and put it in his mouth. Then he picked up the longest strip of cloth, straightened it, wrapped it around his finger, and forcefully packed it into the deepest part of the wound. MMM. A low growl echoed in the dilapidated shack. This wasn't because Bai Yi was masochistic, but because the wound was so deep that blood wouldn't flow out much, but instead flowed into the body's cavities. Packing the wound with gauze could block these cavities and prevent blood from flowing in. After forcefully packing the wound on his left shoulder, Bai Yi used the same method to treat the Wolf King's bite wound on his left arm. Afterward, he took a breath and began to treat his other wounds. The other areas were minor injuries, and he simply performed basic hemostasis. As for the 3 wounds on his chest, Bai Yi couldn't do anything about them for now. Firstly, the wounds were too deep and the flesh was exposed, requiring stitches. Secondly, he didn't have enough cloth strips for bandaging, so he had to leave them for the time being. After simple treatment, Bai Yi glanced at the sky outside. There was still a sliver of light left. He struggled to his feet and walked out of the shelter, closing the door behind him. By the wishing well, Bai Yi laboriously lifted 3 units of stone. There was wood stored in the shelter, so he didn't need to carry any more. From now on, I must put any collected resources into the storage box immediately. Bai Yi muttered to himself. There was nothing for it. No matter how cautious a person was, there was always a limit to what they could notice. Who knew where they might stumble? Just as Bai Yi was about to head back, he suddenly heard a rustling sound from deep within the distant mist, like a slithery swallowing sound approaching. His expression changed, and he immediately ran towards the shelter. Meanwhile, the thing in the mist revealed itself. It was clearly the rotten corpse Bai Yi had seen on the forum. Its speed was completely different from the zombies in movies. It was so agile it was almost as fast as Bolt. You see a rotten corpse, sanity -5. This rotten corpse had been tracking him all the way along Bai Yi's blood and the wolf blood. Chapter 6, First Trade. The rotten corpse's ashen-gray fingertips grazed across the door crack, the foul stench spraying onto the back of Bai Yi's neck, making his hair stand on end. The moment he threw the bolt, the sound of metal clashing and scratching erupted simultaneously. Shelter durability, 99-100. Through the gaps in the logs, Bai Yi saw that ulcerated face pressed against the door panel. Maggots fell rustling from the rotten corpse's hollow eye sockets, yet it continued to scratch as if it couldn't feel pain, the impact every few seconds causing the entire wooden house to tremble. Durability 1. Durability 1. System, you damn troll. Bai Yi quickly estimated that this shelter could hold on for at most 4 minutes. He cursed angrily, what use is this newbie protection period? Not daring to delay, Bai Yi stumbled toward the wooden table. He grabbed the stone pickaxe crafting diagram, prepared all the raw materials, and began crafting. Used exquisite stone pickaxe crafting diagram, durability 1, crafting countdown, 0059. Seeing the countdown, Bai Yi was so angry he spat a mouthful of blood onto the table. What he lacked most right now was time. Every time the countdown number ticked down, the scratching outside intensified. Bai Yi tore off a blood-soaked cloth strip to wrap around his wrist, his trembling fingertips opening the plaza trading interface, where dozens of stone pickaxe offers cascaded before his eyes. Good quality, maximum 200 wood, not enough. He stared at a transaction record, thinking constantly. When the first stone pickaxe solidified in blue light, Bai Yi didn't even look at it, directly listing it on the plaza with the tag good quality stone pickaxe ×1 for 50 stone. Almost the instant he clicked confirm, a system notification popped up. Transaction successful. Piles of stone fell from the void, and Bai Yi gritted his teeth so hard they nearly cracked. Keep crafting. Durability 1. Durability 1. Crafting lists popped up one after another, and the countdown clock split into triple phantoms in his pupils. Bai Yi barely suppressed his dizziness and looked at the alert on the log. Shelter durability, 5-100. When the second stone pickaxe took shape, he immediately bundled both and listed them. Good quality stone pickaxe, ×2 for 200 wood plus 50 stone. This transaction notification came even faster, accompanied by a private message vibration from a stranger. Anonymous user 9527, brother, do you have a direct supply? Bai Yi's face was taut. He had no time to reply, his fingers tracing afterimages in the void. Shelter durability, 2-100. The instant the upgrade materials piled up in the corner of the room. Confirm upgrade. The moment white light engulfed the wooden house, the rotten corpse's howling pierced through the walls. He fell backward onto the brand-new oak floor, watching the composite mortise and tenon ceiling slowly take shape. The crackling sound of sparks from the fireplace was more pleasant than any symphony at this moment. The original wooden bed expanded to 180 × 200 cm, the house area also expanded to 80 square meters, and pine oil on the polished wooden boards reflected light. Exquisite wooden house. Level 3. Durability, 500-500. Capacity, 0-500. Traits, none. Upgrade, 0-300 stone, 0-30 mud. Description, very good, it finally looks like a shelter, barely able to resist the rotten corpse scratching at the door. Unlocked fireplace, unlocked wooden fence, 1 wooden fence, 3 wood, 4 thatch. Unlocked bathroom, bedroom, living room. The scratching sound outside the door became extremely faint. Bai Yi pushed himself up using the brand-new solid wood table, and through the double-paned glass window, saw the rotten corpse still persistently ramming the door, but the shelter's durability was no longer dropping. The crisis of the rotten corpse was over, but Bai Yi had no time to catch his breath. He was too severely injured and had lost too much blood. His vision was already blackening, and there was a constant buzzing in his ears. The crafting list was still jumping, so Bai Yi set the newly produced stone pickaxes aside and continued production. Then he began to focus on searching for medical supplies. Medical scalpel, anti-inflammatory drugs, painkillers. The items were varied, but for the severe injuries on Bai Yi's body, they were merely a drop in the bucket. He kept searching, and suddenly one item caught his eye: wound healing injection. Quality, good. Description, wound recovery type potion, excellent effects for cuts, lacerations, puncture wounds, etc., but this medication can only heal flesh. To avoid infection, please clean the dust from the wound before use. Seller's note: private message with offers, don't bother if you're going to throw out random prices. I'll block you immediately. Bai Yi clicked on the private chat. Lone Wolf, good quality exquisite stone pickaxe, interested in trading? Stone pickaxe detailed attributes. Seller 1, no medical supplies have higher value. Lone Wolf 2. Seller deal. Bai Yi purchased it, and the injection appeared on the table. He didn't use it immediately but continued to search for disinfectant supplies. Finally, Bai Yi used one stone pickaxe to purchase a medical kit, 500 ml medical alcohol plus 5 bandages plus 5 gauze. Bai Yi soaked the gauze in alcohol, then first pulled out the cloth strip stuffed into his left shoulder, then bit down on something, picked up the gauze, and took 2 deep breaths. His fingers, carrying the gauze, went deep into the wound. The sting of the alcohol made cold sweat pour down, and the repeated handling of the wound also caused it to widen. However, he already had the injection, and now he just needed to clean out the dust and sand from inside the wound. The sand brought in when he stuffed the cloth strip in earlier. After the left shoulder, left arm, and the most difficult parts were finished, Bai Yi treated the 3 wounds on his chest and other wounds in turn. The entire process was torture. The drowsiness caused by excessive blood loss and the alertness caused by alcohol stimulation constantly intertwined, leaving Bai Yi exhausted. With his last bit of strength, he jabbed the injection into his neck, and the ice blue liquid injected automatically. Bai Yi fell unconscious. Weather: sunny location, land of mist time, afternoon, temperature, 20. Having slept for a night and half a day, Bai Yi finally woke up. He only felt parched and sore all over, as if he were falling apart. After gulping down a few mouthfuls of fresh water, Bai Yi felt much better. I'm alive. The wound healing injection was very effective. The minor wounds on Bai Yi's body that weren't serious had already completely healed, and the wounds on his left shoulder, left arm, and chest had all scabbed over. It's just that this injection only handles healing and not after sales, resulting in scars of all sizes all over Bai Yi's body, though he didn't mind these. He got up and moved his body. The 3 areas that were most severely injured, shoulders, chest, and arms, were still slightly sore, and the blood scabs that hadn't fallen off marked these terrifying scars. Bai Yi, healthy age, 30 strength, 3.8 spirit, 9.1 constitution, 3.8 sanity, 100 talent, steel spine will. Looking at his personal panel, Bai Yi was overjoyed. This life and death struggle wasn't in vain. Moreover, his body was still a bit sore now, and he believed that after his body fully recovered, his attributes would increase a bit more. With his current attributes, if he activated his talent, his strength and constitution would skyrocket to 11.4, exceeding the limits of humanity. Power that exceeds human limits, huh? Bai Yi looked at his hands, lost in thought, then clenched his fists. Everything is for the sake of survival. Although it was already afternoon, Bai Yi wasn't worried. He no longer planned to upgrade the shelter by chopping trees and digging for stone. Yesterday's trade made him realize once again the importance of the stone pickaxe at the moment. Because starting from level 3, upgrading the shelter no longer requires wood, and stone will have increasingly greater uses later on. But because the system didn't provide a free pickaxe at the start, this led to stone mining becoming extremely difficult, and the yield from chopping stone with an axe was extremely low. Although some wilderness survival experts could handcraft stone pickaxes, the highest quality was only ordinary, and supply couldn't meet demand. Players on the forum had already calculated that the efficiency difference between ordinary tools and good tools was about double. In other words, in the same amount of time, an ordinary pickaxe could mine 10 units of stone, while a good pickaxe could mine 20 units. Currently, good quality tools could only be obtained through the wishing well or crafting diagrams, but as time passed, more and more players would obtain stone pickaxes. Therefore, taking advantage of the currently high price of stone pickaxes, Bai Yi intended to upgrade the shelter directly through trading. Another piece of latest news: some players had already upgraded their shelter to level 5 but couldn't continue upgrading, which meant this was Bai Yi's chance to catch up. At the same time, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Fortunately, the log existed otherwise, with players acting on their own. Who knows how many people would have died. Chapter 7 Talent. After confirming repeatedly that the rotten corpse outside the door had left, Bai Yi put on the clothes he had traded for and stepped out of the shelter, fully armed. With his talent cooldown finished, Bai Yi felt like he was back in action. He started searching around the shelter for traces of the rotten corpse. As the saying goes, it's scary to see a spider, but it's even scarier when you blink and it's gone. That was exactly how Bai Yi felt now. Given the agility of the rotten corpse he had witnessed last night, if it were to sneak up on him while he was working one day, it would be no joke. He could easily be one-shotted. However, Bai Yi searched within a 1-kilometer radius and still couldn't find any traces of the rotten corpse. Seeing the sky darkening, he had no choice but to give up for now. With an uneasy heart, he collected some fresh water and thatch before returning to the shelter. He first traded a stone pickaxe for 200 units of wood, crafted it into a wooden fence, and after surrounding the entire area around the shelter, he clapped his hands in satisfaction. Afterward, he placed the wolf carcass he had dragged back yesterday into the yard, used the log to dismantle them one by one, and threw the useless parts like internal organs into the wishing well. According to the summary on the forum, only complete, non-dismantled carcasses can be used for wishing. Bai Yi laid the wolf's skin on his bed as a mattress and placed the wolf fangs on the table as decorations. After curing the chunks of meat with the salt he had traded for, he strung them up with ropes made of thatch and hung them under the eaves to air dry and cure. After returning to the shelter, Bai Yi put wood into the long-extinguished fireplace and lit it with thatch. He placed the wolf meat over the fireplace to roast, flipping it from time to time. Finally, after a busy day, Master Bai ate a hot, roasted meat chop on his 4th day in this world. Thanks to the experts who provided the guides on the forum, if I ever make it big in the future, I will definitely bring you all here and treat you well. After eating a piece of the Wolf King's meat, Bai Yi felt warm all over, and his entire body felt filled with strength. Once full and satisfied, the outside had already plunged into darkness. Bai Yi didn't waste any time and started making stone pickaxes. Exquisite stone pickaxe blueprint, durability 1320. Bai Yi planned to craft all of them, sell 10, and keep 3 for himself just in case. No sooner said than done. While waiting, Bai Yi opened the log. When he flipped to the chat page, he found a few private messages sent by 2 different people. Anonymous user 9527, brother, do you still have stone pickaxes? Anonymous user 9527, brother, are you still there? Lone Wolf, I have stocked 10 pieces, wanna buy? Anonymous user 9527, damn, brother, you must have found a blueprint, you're so lucky. Do you want to join our mutual aid association? In the Mist world, having more friends means having more paths. Lone Wolf, Mutual Aid Association. Anonymous user 9527, it just means helping each other. For things like trading items, there are discounts for internal trades. At the same time, we will help you if you encounter difficulties. Bai Yi became interested and sat up straight. Lone Wolf, do you have a way to meet, or have you already gathered together? Anonymous user 9527, not yet, but I believe that one day. Bai Yi sat back down. Lone Wolf, not interested for now, you make an offer. Anonymous user 9527, brother, we are all just trying to survive, it's not easy for any of us. Meeting is fate, can you give me a 50% discount? Bai Yi blocked him directly and then clicked to view the next message. Anonymous, you're in such a rush to buy medicine, are you injured? Anonymous, friend, are you still there? Bai Yi wondered, Anonymous again. He looked at Anonymous user 9527, then looked at Anonymous. What is going on? He turned on anonymity himself and tried it in the chat channel. Anonymous, African agriculture is underdeveloped, you must use golden kelp. Brother, what are you doing? Dude, this meme is at least 10 years old. Bai Yi suddenly realized, this troll's name is actually Anonymous user 9527. Hey, this guy is so boring. He then clicked on the chat box again. Lone Wolf, I'm still alive. I encountered a wolf pack while exploring. Thanks for your medicine. Anonymous, wow, that's amazing. You survived encountering a wolf pack. How did you run away? Add me as a friend, share some experience. Player Wang Zi has requested to become your friend. Friends, our real name verified. Bai Yi thought about it and clicked accept. Wang Zi, your name is Bai Yi, hello. Bai Yi, hello. Wang Zi, tell me quickly, how did you get away? Is your talent related to speed? Bai Yi, I didn't run, they ran. Wang Zi, did you scare them away? Is your talent spirit-based? Do you inflict fear on other creatures? A fear aura? Spirit-based talent is very rare. Bai Yi, my talent is not spirit-based. I just killed 9 wolves, including the Wolf King, and the remaining 2 ran away. The chat box fell into an eerie silence. Seeing that the other side didn't reply for a long time, Bai Yi felt a bit awkward. 10 years of paralysis had caused his social skills to severely deteriorate. Although he was no longer so stiff thanks to the exchanges on the forum, plaza, and channels over the past few days, he couldn't help but feel awkward when faced with this silence. Just as he was about to say something, a message came from the other side. Wang Zi, holy crap. Wang Zi, you are so amazing. Wang Zi, I didn't expect to actually run into a big shot. Wang Zi, you killed 9 wolves by yourself, and you actually scared the remaining 2 away. Wang Zi, oh my goodness. Bai Yi, don't scare me, are you okay? Wang Zi, I'm fine. Big shot, can we cooperate more? I'm very useful, hehe. Bai Yi didn't want to continue talking to her anymore. He felt that this person wasn't quite right in the head, and it would be better to delete her from his friends list sooner rather than later. Bai Yi, you don't look very smart, maybe we should just. Before Bai Yi could finish his sentence, Wang Zi sent a screenshot of her information panel. Wang Zi, talent, plant resonance, passive, significantly increases the survival rate and growth rate of plants. Seeds planted by your own hands will definitely sprout. You are a friend of plants, and plants will never attack you. Bai Yi stopped moving. He widened his eyes. This talent was a god-tier skill. He could be certain that with this talent, Wang Zi would be the best protected talent no matter where she was. Wang Zi, how is it? Big shot, am I qualified? Currently, besides ordinary potatoes, leeks, wild vegetables, etc., I also have special plants. Wang Zi was like an enthusiastic salesperson, except she was selling herself. Before Bai Yi could reply, Wang Zi threw out a few more chat screenshots. Wang Zi, spiritual rice. After consumption, it will slowly strengthen the biological constitution and can break through human limits, hemostatic grass. After crushing the grass and applying it to the wound, it can disinfect and stop bleeding, while also having a slight healing function. Antidote grass. Can neutralize common toxins, tastes like mint. Wang Zi, image, a piece of reclaimed soil with many small sprouts growing on it. What? This time, Bai Yi stood up directly. He started pacing around the room holding the log. The other special plants wouldn't have made him too excited, but one thing made him unable to control himself: spiritual rice. Chapter 8, Human Limits. Time returned to the evening. By this time, the scabs on Bai Yi's wounds had all fallen off, and the soreness in his muscles had disappeared without a trace. Strength, 4 sanity, 9.1, physique, 4. These were Bai Yi's current attributes. Immediately after, he activated his talent. Open. Steel spine will activated, sanity -95, current sanity 5,100, obtained 2.75x amplification. Warning, your sanity is below 10, you are falling into permanent madness, you are falling into cognitive distortion. Exempted. Feeling the familiar excruciating pain, Bai Yi found that he was already starting to get used to it. He clicked on the panel. Strength, 10.4 sanity, 9.1 physique, 10/4. Amplification is 2.75 times. Strength and physique should have risen to 11, but now it is only 10. Is it because it has reached the human limit? Bai Yi analyzed. It was hard for him to describe this feeling. It was as if the world had become clearer. The fine textures on the trees 8 meters away became crystal clear in Bai Yi's eyes. Various subtle sounds around him were also keenly captured by his ears. The creaking sound of the wind blowing against the door, the slight friction of leaves falling on the ground, and the rustling sound of branches swaying slightly. His sense of smell was also enhanced. The faint musty smell from the rotting leaves on the ground, the smell of blood near the shelter, and the smell of sweat and blood on his own body. So the smell of different animal blood is so different. What Bai Yi felt most clearly was his brain. Vision, taste, hearing, smell, so much messy information was constantly collected by his brain, quickly analyzed, organized, and then the useful information was transmitted. Bai Yi took a deep breath and shifted his attention to his body. He felt that his body was full of strength. He came to a tree, ready to test his jumping ability. Without any preparation, just the simplest squat and jump, Bai Yi easily reached a branch nearly 4 meters from the ground. Bai Yi hung his whole body on it. Then, he released his left hand. Immediately after, with the thumb, index finger, middle finger, and ring finger of his right hand, he finally supported his entire body weight with just his little finger. After doing 10 pull-ups with 2 fingers, he exerted force with one hand and pulled his whole body up, his feet landing steadily on the branch. Single-legged, jumping, extremely strong balance. He jumped down from the branch without any cushioning, just slightly bending his legs. Bai Yi stood up and felt his knees. There was no unusual feeling. The height of 5 or 6 meters did not cause any damage to his knees. Next was speed. Bai Yi set 2 points, about 200 meters round trip. The result was that Bai Yi estimated the time based on his heartbeat, 18 seconds. This included the time for Bai Yi to decelerate, turn around, and accelerate again. Too fast. A large part of the reason was that Bai Yi's ability to control his body was too strong. He could reach his limit speed within 2 seconds after starting. The acceleration period was extremely short. Then it was strength. Bai Yi went back to the room and took out the Wolf King's head. He had originally wanted to hang it on the door to ward off evil spirits, but it would work just as well for testing. After fixing the wolf head, Bai Yi threw a punch, and a crisp sound came from the Wolf King's skull. Crack! Hearing the sound, Bai Yi abruptly stopped his second punch. There wasn't much experimental material. If he broke it, he wouldn't be able to test the others. Standing still again, Bai Yi delivered an elbow strike and the Wolf King's skull shattered instantly. His elbow went straight into the skull, brains splattering everywhere. Bai Yi withdrew his elbow with satisfaction, then happily went to fetch the other 2 wolf heads. Spinning elbow, high knee lift, flying knee. Steel spine will effect ended. Sanity restored 100/100. The talent effect ended and entered cooldown. Looking at the 3 dilapidated heads that no longer looked like wolves, Bai Yi took a photo with his log to remember, then left with satisfaction. Time returned to the present. Bai Yi looked excited. After that, he checked the forum and found that no one had mentioned that attributes could not increase after reaching 10. It should be that no one had reached the threshold of 10 yet. If I have spiritual rice, then I can break through the shackles of 10. The excitement quickly passed, and his sanity returned to the upper hand. Coincidentally, since spiritual rice exists, there must be other things that can help me break the limit. The reason why there isn't any now might be because the conditions haven't been met. It seems I need to pay close attention to the trading plaza in the future. Thinking of this, Bai Yi sat back down. Wang Zi was very important. She must not die. But the problem now was that there was no way to protect her. If she died while collecting materials, then the method for Bai Yi to become stronger closest to him would be gone, and he would have to search again. Thinking of this, Bai Yi opened his log. At the same time, in an exquisite villa, Wang Zi was holding her log, curled up in a cotton quilt. She was posting passionately in a chat group. Wang Zi, I met a big shot. Zaisu met another big shot. Which one is this today? Wang Zi, HMPH, mind your own business. Zaisu, mind your own business tilde. Wang Zi, I'm not in the mood to argue with you now. Uncle Zhang, are you there? Come out. Wang Zi, Uncle Zhang, should we try to pull him in? He fought 11 wolves alone, killed 9, 2 ran away. Such strong combat power, isn't that exactly what we lack? Zhang Zhen, Zio Wang, I'm exercising, don't be excited. How do you know it's true? Any screenshots? Oh right, Wang Zi's happy expression stiffened. Wang Zi, no, but he shouldn't lie to me. Li Zihua, Sister Wang, even if there were screenshots, would you invite him without asking anything? Would he agree? Zaisu, exactly, even if he is that strong, can you be sure of his character? You know, the next stage is. Zhang Zhen, all right, both of you say less. Zio Wang has good intentions. Our team doesn't lack logistics, but we lack a combatant. Everyone is troubled by this, and Zio Wang has been soaking in the forum for a whole day. Wang Zi, everyone helped me so much, upgrading the shelter and providing seeds. I don't want to accept favors for free, I want to contribute. Wang Zi curled up in the quilt, feeling very aggrieved. Tears sparkled in her eyes. Dad, Mom, where are you? I miss you. Zaisu, why are you quiet? Don't tell me you're hiding in the blanket crying. Wang Zi, if you don't talk, no one will treat you as a mute. Zaisu, not joking anymore, let's talk business. We all know each other's talent. Bai Yi looked at the increasingly heavy rain outside and muttered, It seems I won't be able to go out this afternoon. He placed the canteen on the fireplace to heat it up, roasted some bear meat, and picked up the log. World Channel. It's raining heavily here, I can't go out now. It's raining here too. I finished chopping half a tree, but I was driven back by the rain. What should I do about my shelter upgrade? No, I have to go chop wood in the rain. Don't do it, man. If you catch a cold in this weather, it's not something a few trees can cure. The World Channel was all discussing the sudden heavy rain. It seems it's not just raining here. Bai Yi muttered to himself. Suddenly, he noticed a post on the forum rapidly rising, with a title that was the content itself. Tested, mud dampened by rain can be used for shelter upgrades. Go collect it now. Right, how did I forget about that? Bai Yi slapped his thigh. He had originally planned to use the water he collected to mix the mud. Now that there was some ready-made, he had to collect it quickly. He wolfed down the bear meat that was only 5/10 cooked and immediately got up to look for tools. Looking left and right, Bai Yi stopped, feeling a bit awkward. All his belongings were dried meat, a tattered stone axe, a gun, a bed, a plastic bucket, a canteen, a stone pickaxe, and the Tang Dao crafting blueprint. Oh right, and the 1,200 units of stone outside. He had been busy upgrading the shelter and didn't have any spare resources to build a bedroom or bathroom. Other common tools were also non-existent, not to mention tools for collecting mud. After thinking for a while, Bai Yi took out the stone pickaxe crafting blueprint and materials. Exquisite stone pickaxe crafting blueprint. Quality, good. Durability, 3/20. Use exquisite stone pickaxe crafting blueprint, durability -1, crafting countdown, 00:59. After crafting it, he opened the trading plaza, edited the content, and sent it. Good quality stone pickaxe, ×1, for normal quality stone axe, ×2, plus normal quality iron shovel, ×1. Chapter 10, Power Leveling. Transaction successful. A few minutes after listing it, the stone pickaxe was finally snatched up. It's much slower than before. It seems many players are no longer short of pickaxes. As players continued to develop, the most profitable period for stone pickaxes had passed, and the premium wasn't as high as before. Now, some players had already mined iron and were trading it in the plaza. However, Bai Yi was not worried. He had already sold most of his stone pickaxes, and the remaining ones were for his own use. With his equipment ready, Bai Yi traded 1 unit of wolf meat for a raincoat. He didn't want to catch a cold. Bai Yi walked into the yard and began enthusiastically collecting mud. Before long, 30 units of mud were piled up next to the shelter. But Bai Yi didn't stop. When browsing the forums earlier, he had already learned the materials required to upgrade the shelter from level 4 to level 5. Bai Yi piled up 130 units of mud in one go, forming a small hill. Afterward, he went back in and traded 10 units of meat for 100 units of stone. Now for the main event. Bai Yi stood in the yard holding his log, excited as he opened it. He intended to upgrade the shelter directly to level 5. Upgrade shelter. Yes. A familiar white light flashed, and the shelter, along with the yard enclosed by the wooden fence, expanded once again. Because he was standing in the yard, Bai Yi had to step back along with the white light. When the white light dissipated, Bai Yi stared at the building before him, stunned. The wooden cabin, originally pieced together from hard wooden materials, had now transformed into a grayish-white stone house. Faint, intricate patterns could be seen on the walls, resembling some kind of special rock. Bai Yi reached out to touch the wall. The cold, hard texture had a strange warmth to it. Even if it's not 1 in a billion, it's at least 1 in 10 million. The only problem is they are all functional types. Adding a combatant is important, but it's mutual benefit. To him, our role is also very powerful, so there's no need to go out of our way to lick others. That would just belittle ourselves. Zhang Zhen, that's right. Wei Fen, exactly. Xiao Wang, you take care of the plants diligently. We see it, no one will blame you. Wang Zi, HMPH, even a dog's mouth can spit out ivory. Looking at the messages in the group, Wang Zi reached out and wiped away her tears. Fortunately, she met them, otherwise, she might have starved to death in that thatched cottage long ago. At this moment, the log vibrated. Wang Zi opened it and saw a message from the big shot. Bai Yi, your talent is very important, and special plants are what I need. We can deepen our cooperation. Wang Zi, big shot, no problem. By the way, do you have photos of the wolves? Wolves, I haven't seen them. Bai Yi shook his head and smiled. What do you mean you haven't seen them? I'm afraid she doesn't believe him and is testing him. He raised his log, took a photo of the dazzling array of dried meat, sent it over, and then thought about it and sent the 3 wolf heads along with it. Bai Yi, dried meat. Bai Yi, wolf heads. Bai Yi, I was injured, so I only brought back 3 wolves. They've been dismantled. When the meat is air-dried, I'll send you some to taste. Seeing the full amount of dried meat, Wang Zi's brain buzzed. Although she had a premonition, after it was really proven, she still got excited. If he joins us. Wait, this is wolf heads. Wang Zi stared at the second picture, looking left and right, but she couldn't see the wolf shape at all. Wang Zi, big shot, is the second picture a wolf head? Bai Yi, yes, I beat them during training. During training, beat them? Wang Zi was petrified in her quilt, so brutal and whipping the corpse. Seems like Dog Zai was right, check his character. Don't rush, let's see. Wang Zi muttered to herself while forwarding the pictures and text to the group. The group chat fell silent. After a while, a message popped up. Zhang Zhen, ****, Zio Wang, contact him more. It's best if you can get him to join us. Wang Zi, Uncle Zhang, what if he doesn't want to? Zai Su, you can use that information to trade, I have no objection. Seeing this sentence, Wang Zi's body shook. She knew that her partner was tempted. Chapter 9, A Great Harvest. Bai Yi waited, but Wang Zi did not reply. He didn't mind. After sending a message saying, stay in touch, he put down the log and started his daily exercise. The 10 exquisite stone pickaxes had all been sold during the chat, just enough to exchange for 1,200 units of stone. However, because there wasn't enough water in the shelter to mix the mud, the shelter could only be upgraded tomorrow morning. For now, Bai Yi planned to exercise first. During his exercise, a flash of inspiration struck him. What would happen if he activated his talent and exercised at a difficulty level even higher than the maximum? Unfortunately, his talent had already been used, but that didn't matter. He could try it tomorrow. After finishing his workout, Bai Yi was drenched in sweat. He collapsed onto the bed and fell asleep. Weather, heavy rain location, land of mist time, morning temperature, 10:13. Achoo, achoo. Bai Yi sneezed twice, waking himself up from his sleep. Is someone thinking of me? He muttered as he got out of bed, first roasting a small piece of meat to fill his stomach, then doing some basic warm-up exercises. Afterward, he opened his personal panel. Bai Yi healthy. Age 30. Strength 4-2. Spirit 9-1. Constitution 4-2. Sanity 100/100. Talent Steel Spine Will. Strength and Constitution increased by 0.2. Is it because of the exercise? Or something else? Bai Yi looked at the increased stats, feeling a surge of joy, and then began to ponder the reason. It shouldn't be because of the exercise. The results from the exercise are very stable, increasing by 0.1 each time. Could it be the wolf meat? Bai Yi suddenly remembered the warm feeling throughout his body after eating the meat yesterday. That must be the reason. He picked up the log to search. Sure enough. There was a post on the forum analyzing that eating the flesh of the animals in this world could slowly enhance one's physical fitness. Although this post was a featured one, there weren't many players capable of hunting independently yet, so it wasn't too popular. Bai Yi liked the post and exited the forum. Is it raining outside? Just then, Bai Yi, who was preparing to go out, looked through the window and saw rain drizzling outside. The rain isn't too heavy, I can go out. Shepherd's Mercy damaged, durability, 5/5, the revolver's ammunition had long been replenished. Bai Yi held the gun in his left hand, a stone axe in his right, and had the log tucked into his waist. The stone axe was already tattered. Dark red bloodstains that couldn't be wiped off clung to the wooden handle, and the axe blade was pitted from excessive chopping. Let's go. Bai Yi planned to go to the location of the wolf corpses from before to take a look. If the bodies were still there, he would drag them back, though even he didn't hold much hope. Relying on his memory, Bai Yi made his way to the place where the battle had occurred. The 6 wolf corpses were indeed gone. There were deep drag marks on the ground, still stained with wolf blood. Something dragged the bodies away. Bai Yi thought for a moment and decided to follow the tracks to see. At this moment, he was in peak condition. He hadn't fired a single shot from the revolver, and his talent had finished cooling down. Even if 10 more wolves came, Bai Yi was confident he could wipe them all out. After walking about 700 or 800 meters along the tracks, Bai Yi saw a massive stone wall with a cave at the very bottom. He was now nearly 2 kilometers away from the shelter. At the entrance of the cave, a giant black bear was dragging a wolf corpse as it climbed inside. Bai Yi felt a bit eager. He wanted to hunt this bear. I can't go inside the cave. It's too dark in there. Who knows who will end up killing whom? Also, I don't know if the bear will come out again after going in. The safest method is. At this moment, the black bear was happily dragging its prey. As it walked through the jungle, it had stumbled upon a pile of corpses, a free feast. Now it just wanted to hurry back and enjoy the feast in its den. Suddenly, its ears twitched. A faint movement came from the bushes behind it. It immediately became alert, stood up, and looked back. Nothing. Roar. The black bear let out a threatening roar, accompanied by the rapid clattering of its teeth. The bushes shook even more violently, and a strange-looking creature stumbled out and ran toward the distance. Because it was too panicked, it tripped and fell to the ground, then scrambled to get back up in a fluster. Fresh food delivered for free? The black bear got excited at the sight. Although the previous feast was free, it wasn't very fresh. Now that fresh prey had suddenly appeared, today was truly a lucky day. Didn't think twice and ran toward the prey without hesitation. That creature was so stupid, it didn't even know how to run away, tripping every few steps. Was it because it was too scared? The black bear quickly caught up. The creature was facing it, sitting on the ground, constantly scooting backward while making strange noises. The black bear smelled it. It was the scent of fear. It didn't rush to bite the prey but stood up on its hind legs. It wanted to show off its powerful and terrifying size. But when it stood up, it realized the prey had suddenly stopped making noise and had taken out something to point at it. Bang, bang. 2 large holes were instantly blown into the black bear's head and chest. The body slumped down powerlessly. Is the black bear really that stupid? Afraid that just aiming for the head wouldn't be safe, it even stood up so I could hit both the head and the heart. Bai Yi was a little surprised, but the result was good. I have to say, this bear was really huge. It must have been 3 meters tall just now when it stood up. Bai Yi sighed with emotion while dragging the bear to the cave entrance. He planned to go in and take a look. The cave entrance wasn't small. The moment he stepped inside, a pungent stench hit him. Bai Yi gagged a few times, forcing himself to endure the disgust as he walked inside. The cave wasn't deep. He reached the end after walking a few meters. The cave was small, and there were 5 wolf corpses piled to one side. 3 of them had already been half-eaten, while the remaining 2 were well-preserved, though they had already started to rot. Beside the corpses, there was a pile of white bones. Bai Yi kicked them a few times and actually discovered something. He quickly kicked the bones aside. It was a book. Bai Yi picked up the book and flipped through it casually. Most of the pages inside were damaged, making it impossible to see the content. He searched and found that only half a page was still legible, and the text on it could vaguely be made out. Bai Yi tried to identify the content against the light. Theta nu sigma alpha theta nu sigma. What is this? He was certain this wasn't a human language. Could there have been other civilizations here? He couldn't understand it, so Bai Yi stopped dwelling on it and scanned it with his log. Tang Dao crafting blueprint damaged. Quality, good. Durability, 3/3. Description, 1 wood, 5 crude iron. This is a tool forging book that gathers the essence of an entire civilization. Unfortunately, only half a page remains now. Good stuff. He had struck gold. Bai Yi became excited. Currently, weapons of good quality were rarer than medicine, let alone a sword, which was the most suitable weapon for a beginner. It's a pity this book is damaged. I can't imagine how high the quality of this book would be if it were intact. After sighing, Bai Yi stopped thinking about it and began to search the cave excitedly. This time he searched extremely carefully, almost turning the cave upside down, but unfortunately there were no other gains. I've already made a huge profit. Time to go, time to go. Bai Yi comforted himself while starting to transport the corpses. He first used a lot of effort to drag the black bear back to the yard of the shelter, then made another trip to bring back the 3 wolf corpses. Phew, I'm exhausted. After finishing his work, Bai Yi sat panting at the entrance of the shelter. But he didn't dare to rest for long because the rain was gradually getting heavier. Following the same steps, Bai Yi began to dismantle the black bear. Before dismantling, Bai Yi even took a photo of the black bear. Because of its massive size, the black bear yielded 200 units of meat, which Bai Yi processed into dried meat in the same way. With this, Bai Yi's roof was now covered. He was hoarding food like a hamster. Since the wolf corpses had already rotted, Bai Yi threw them into the well to draw prizes. As for what he pulled up, let's just say it wasn't bad. Large plastic bucket. Iron water canteen. Wood 1. Gray wolf exchange count, 2/5. The items weren't precious, but they were very useful. Bai Yi took the bucket and canteen to fill them with fresh water before the rain turned into a downpour. After everything was finished, it was already noon.